Hello everyone, and welcome back to Formula Virtual Racing. Yes, it's season 12. Yes, we have our defending champion Luke Davies, and I do believe we have Legend Rosenberg. He's near our probably crown jewel of FVR here. No, we're not at Albert Park because of a certain driver who won the last race in Formula Virtual Racing. And no, unfortunately Evan isn't here. It is just me, Brendan, along with Jackson, who's standing in for Evan today. So how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. It's a pleasure to be alongside you, of course. As I can imagine, everyone sort of wish Evan was here, but no, it's great that I could be here to stand in from here today, and looking forward to what should be quite an exciting season opener with plenty of top drivers here that have got previous champions, multi-time champions, and drivers that are desperate to become champions. So I see only one outcome of this, and that's a really good race on our hands ahead of us today.
Yeah, it should be a very good season here. Obviously we have Legend Rosenberg in Red Bull alongside Connor Rochford. I see the main thing to know here is the draft was actually done in a different way, with split 2 drivers selecting a split 1 teammate, which made for some interesting pairings. Obviously you have Legend and Connor Rochford. Rochford was a reserve last season who came in later on, and he did well enough for himself. He gave himself a good account. We do have Professor Gubadi here, who was not that well earlier in the week, but he is here. Obviously he's known for a very good pace, but we might not expect that much tonight if he wasn't that well during the week. We do have the winner of the final race of last season, Kyle Albert, who probably won the most iconic FVR race. Obviously it was Luke Davies win championship, which was the main concern, but much like season 4, we had a maiden winner, and while there was Juan in season 4, it was Kyle last time. We do have Lewis McWilliam in what could be a very important season for him. He might not have that much time after this season, so I do hope he'll be able to come around and give this title challenge one last go. Obviously Luke Davies and McLaren alongside Borbune, these two have worked well together, and should be very interesting to see. It's a strong pairing considering split 2 drivers were the ones selecting, so you wasn't guaranteed by any means. Obviously Liam Huisman, a driver with a lot of pace, but doesn't really seem to be able to put together apart from the odd appearance here and there. Jörgen's a very consistent driver who's able to get decent results, so if Huisman and Jörgen's were on form, it could be a very underrated pairing. As the Tim Hire, who has surprisingly has had some good results, and Pineapple Boy, who's also shown some decent pace. You've got Nathan Marriott in the Haas, who is a decent driver, admittedly probably hasn't shown absolute blistering pace, but is very consistent. And Philip Engel, who I do believe won in Canada, and he's an FVR race winner. You have Tyler Davison in the AlphaTauri, and a new boy alongside him, so could be very interesting to see who what AlphaTauri could be in this season, because they have one very good driver and then one bit of an unknown, and then we're looking at Williams, Wong Fee Anderson, good driver, and then we're waiting on his teammate to appear. I believe the same for Merck. So Jackson, to ask you, who would you put your money on this season for the championship?
I mean, it's very hard to bet against Legend. Coming so close last season, of course, several championships in the past. Many people do see him as the best driver in FVR history, of course. With how last season ended, that chance to prove himself as that sort of undisputed great did sort of somewhat slip away. But I mean, Legend, going into the season, you'd have to put him down as the favourite, but I wouldn't say it's a comfortable favourite by any means, because as we saw last season, Luke put up a brilliant fight all season, ended up winning the championship. So, you know, there's lots of drivers in this field very much capable of fighting across the full season, and every race that goes by, it feels like we see different names up near the front making a name for themselves and trying to get themselves in that mix of sort of saying, hey, listen, I can compete up at the front here, don't rule me out. So whilst I would say Legend's the favourite, I think there's lots of drivers out there that will be aiming for that championship, or at least to be in the fight for the championship this season, because it is always so close here.
Yeah. And we are ready to go here. We are 19 drivers. Well, one more, I think, in a Mercedes. I will just check to make sure that if there's anything I'm missing. Julius Gassner is the only one left. As is Adrian and Julius will join mid-quali. Just need to see. Tyler Bastilli is in here, but if I just check here, yeah. So he's meant to be in the Haas, but there's a little bit of a trouble there because he was being told to leave the lobby. But I will keep you posted if there's.
My only guess there would be that if, as he was a reserve for this race, perhaps the main driver was able to race.
I think he's a main. But
I'm looking at the entry list here. The R next to his name. I could be wrong though.
Oh no, yeah, he is an R. So yeah.
Yeah, qualifying beginning here for the first time this season. Everyone in the pits for now anyway, preparing themselves for the first run, first chance to get their name on the timing tower. And try and start the season off well, because there's a lot of qualifying sessions to come this season, but starting off with a good session here to begin the season, that's certainly a confidence boost that you'll not only carry through today into the race, but also into future qualifying and races in the rest of the season, because once you've proven you can do it once, you know you can do it again. So all these drivers will be excited and ready to take on the challenge, which is the Albert Park circuit, which is a pretty great one in Formula 1 history. Of course, quite a different layout to what it was just a few years ago, much more high speed now, so we expect the racing to be, well, on the limit really as they go through some of those long DRS zones into high speed corners. Especially though in qualifying, it's going to all come down to just getting those corners right and just keeping it clean out there, because this track is a street circuit at the end of the day. Doesn't look like most street circuits, but it is a street circuit in its own way, and it means that the walls are always there ready to punish any mistakes that you do make. So a clean start to the season, I think, is what a lot of these drivers will need to be focusing on, and then once they've got that sorted, then they can start to push on and try and find the ultimate lap time.
Indeed, obviously this is a little, as you mentioned, is a little different to most street circuits because it's more public roads than like city streets. So it does give it a little more of an open feel. But we have a lot of drivers here who will be thinking, I can make something of this, I can put a statement out early on this season, set out my stall to prove it. And I believe that, would you like to go on board with one of these drivers here? We'll just find one that may be ready to start a lap.
I think Lewis might just be starting his lap now.
Yep, if you want to go on with him.
The Alpine driver looking to try and take his first pole position of the season. First pole position anyone would get this season. He's got a car retired from the session already. I'm not sure quite what's happened there. It looks like they've pressed the retirement button. That's only perhaps a qualifying ban hanging over them from last season would be my only guess there. But yeah, Lewis on his first lap here, throwing it through these corners, and you can see the cornering speed, these modern Formula 1 cars around these corners here. Truly remarkable now as they come through what used to be a tricky couple of corners. Now is a flat-out drive towards the very fast chicane here ahead of him. Getting ready, throwing the car into the corner, getting it turned in beautifully, slamming the inside curb. Really tricky exit there with a very rough exit curve. You've got to be careful there, but Lewis looking like he's got a very strong lap to start off here. Now, a wider corner than this corner used to be. Gets the nose in nicely now, powering it through. Just got to keep it tidy in the final sector, make no mistakes. and it should be a solid first lap here for Lewis in the Alpine, trying to start off this season well, gets ready to open the DRS, and that looked like, to me at least, a pretty solid lap for him to start the season with.
Yeah, well, it seems like just get a lap on the board, give yourself, at a minimum, a reference. That's something just to work off of. And the 16.8 isn't too bad. I see Luke Davies now is into the pits again after doing an outlap, so clearly something's a little off. It's straight. You would think he would be going for that first lap. Borbune has been in 1:18.0, whether that's a little bit off. Legend Rosenberg only a 1:17.1. So McWilliam is on the McPace, it seems. Oh, look, I had to get that one in, sorry. I had to get in a bad punt. As Connor Rochford.
Sorry, Karen.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Connor Rochford sliding in nicely in P3, not too far off Legend Rosenberg, so a teammate like that could be a big thing for Legend coming to the end of this season. Because having someone as your rear gunner could be the big difference that you need. And you see the Haas drivers there, Philip and Nathan Marriott, not very, very close. So far, very. Oh, what do you think of that now, Jackson? We've just seen the Vesta Gabati blow Lewis's time out of the water.
Yeah, that is. We thought we'd had set a pretty good reference for us there with Lewis's lap time being 3 and a bit temps up on Legend, but Avesta coming in there with a brilliant lap. A little bit later in the session, so maybe you could count a tenth, maybe a tenth and a half of that from Track Evolution, but that is a brilliant lap from Avesta. And again, he's another one of those drivers this season which have got the speed, have got the talent to fight up at the front this season, and it's just about keeping things together, not making any mistakes. And Avesta's there, a very strong message to start the season with, and that sort of perhaps set some of the other drivers back a little bit, going, oh, okay, so I thought I was aiming for that time, I'm going to have to find a few more attempts. And it's that sometimes when that sort of mentality of having to push beyond what you thought was the limit, that's sometimes where mistakes creep in. So Avesta really sort of forcing everyone to up their game a little bit here with that early lap. But I mean, who knows what's to come next, because we thought Lewis's lap time was good, Avesta's done that. There might be someone out there who has even more pace in them to go even further up on provisional pole. So a really strong lap from Avesta, and he's, I'm sure, got everyone looking at him here at the moment.
And that's Tyler Davison, who he starts into third, so Rosenberg has a bit of work to do. And now we have our defending champion here, defending two-time champion I may add, Luke Davies. He may still be a child, but he is also a two-time champion, so we have to give respect where it's due. And be interesting to see where he stacks up in comparison to everyone else, because like Gabati could be a little bit out of reach in his first lap, but then again, Gabati and consistency is the big issue here. Gabati, we all know he's at the pace. He arguably could have won season 7 in FVR had it not been for unfortunate circumstances preventing him from completing the season. But it's also been shown that even as recently as into the of season 11 that he has issues keeping his championship challenge consistent. We see now Davies, he's got a little bit of traffic in this last sector, the Alpines got out of the way, and now into the penultimate corner. This is the last bit of braking zone, but you have to watch the throttle here in this last right hander. It is just so easy to spin. Usually it often turns into 360, but coming up to the lines at 171, so beats Rosenberg, who's also been beaten by his teammate.
Red Bull looking strong so far in this session. Legend surprisingly on the in the second of the Red Bulls at the moment. But yeah, Red Bull with a great start to this session so far. 4th and 6th. Ferrari, another team that's looking pretty strong at the moment, 1st and 7th. So you mentioned before about sort of the new draft system, quite a fascinating draft system brought in for this season of FVR, and it is proving that it can create some very interesting dynamics here within these teams. And So far, it's Red Bull and Ferrari that are the two most consistent cars up there. Yeah, this is going to be another fascinating thing to look at as the season goes on. Is these teammate rivalries and, well, Legend, what's he got in the tank here? Can he then up his game and go back ahead of his teammate and maybe some of the other drivers out there? Because let's face it, we know Legend, he's got the speed to be up there at the front.
Whoa.
He's going to be aiming for that first position, and that's a big first sector for him.
I think we now know why he was a little bit down, because if you're gaining almost half a second in the first sector, some of that probably in general improvement, but there must have been a mistake in a certain corner, and you see there more improvement. It's almost 6/10, although McWilliam, he's now set his stall very much at the top. 1:16.2. Rosenberg's is going to have to find a bit more actually to beat McWilliam. It's almost like it's season 4 again. And and that's all the time gone. Definitely, Rosenberg is struggling to hook the lap here. He's improved still to 3rd place, but you can imagine that's cost him nearly half a second. That did not look pretty.
That's a disappointing end to the lap there for him. You could see sort of once he made that first slight mistake of spinning the rears, he then struggled to keep them underneath him going through the final corner as well. So yeah, that if anything to me suggests that he sort of saw that Lewis McWilliam lap time pop up about halfway around his lap. He saw that appear and thought he was on for a great lap then. I think we thought the same now looking at his times, and all of a sudden the lap he was aiming for just improved by another 2.5 tenths. So it looks like he's just pushing for that little bit extra, and the grip was not there with him. So not the best lap, but still, in fairness, going 3rd fastest there, only half a second off P1 at the moment. Despite having quite a couple of big moments there in the final couple of corners, he's got the pace, I feel. It's just going to be about keeping it clean. As we saw at the start of, the first sector of that flying lap, where he gained half a second in one sector, it does seem that a couple of mistakes here are holding him back just a little bit, but you could argue the same. We haven't seen every lap. We didn't see Lewis McWilliam's lap. He may have had a mistake on his as well, so it is interesting stuff here. Who has the raw pace, and who has the talent and the ability to not only have the pace, but to string all 3 sectors together and put themselves at the top of the times?
I do believe we have Liam Houseman coming up to the line. He has showed improvement there in the lap, so he should be able to gain a spot or two. How much though is the question. It's good enough for 8th place, so not bad for Houseman. I think what we need for this season would probably be just some consistency. Start putting a few races together with good finishes and just trying to eliminate mistakes, because the best way you learn is just by being there, completing the races and being able to find the speed, because Houseman, he does have speed, but it's just getting it out in the right way, because it can come out in a quality lap, it can come out occasionally in some races, but you need it in each session consistently. Even if he doesn't reach that absolute apex of his potential, even just being consistently near it would probably serve him quite well.
I have to agree there. I think something really crucial to driver development is having those consistent race finishes, because unless you're consistently getting to the end of races, fulfilling what you feel was your potential of that race, or at least getting close to it, unless you're able to do that, you're not able to truly track where your performance is going. You can't see sort of a easy way of looking at, are you improving? What are you doing that's working? What isn't working? Without the sort of consistency of having clean races, it's really hard to sort of track what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. So that's really important. And if Liam can manage that this season, as we see Lewis retiring from the session there, so it looks like he doesn't think he's improving on his lap time. As I've just seen the Haas there just do a wheelie coming through the chicane. But yeah, it's crazy stuff happening in Melbourne, all over the place. Season opener, very much living up to the hype at the moment. Drivers pushing the limits and sometimes going over them here. So Lewis retiring from the session early. He's that's an interesting one. Certainly interesting.
Interesting. You see all drivers pushing to limits, and here is Kyle Albert on the Inters, who's doing a surprisingly okay lap. 122.6 on the inters, Kyle. I'm very, very impressed. However, I'm not sure about the legality of this.
Yeah. Kyle always wants to do something different.
He's his own
yeah.
man. He does.
He is. I mean, he won in Abu Dhabi. You can't take away the talent that he's got. He has a unique way of showing it. I think that's the best way of phrasing it.
Yeah. We do have Legend now going for the lap here. Obviously, this first sector probably he just wants to really get as close as he can to it or find the slight bit of improvement on it. But it'll be just this last sector be interesting because that's where he lost all the time. I think he's got a very twitchy setup, it seems. He's struggling with power, but he's finding time with it. And there's the Legend, who we know is very, very, very quick. Like, there's no denying that. And then logically, you would expect him to be at the pointy end of this grid, probably in P1. You see here, he's found a slight margin of improvement in Sector 2. That's just what you want, just to find a little bit there. And you see in this last sector now is the key. Can he keep it under control? Is it going to stick this time? Or is he going to have to just hope that this setup would be nicer in the race with a bit more fuel? You see here, this time it's a lot smoother. It's a lot smoother. He's probably took it a little more careful. Probably not the best line, but it's better. And you see it's a 1:16.3. He found the time, but I think there was a little more in there that he probably could have went for. He's now got...
I noticed in that final sector that his car it seemed to float around a bit more in the early sort of first half of the lap. Absolutely planted. It was doing exactly what he wanted. It was remarkable to watch, really, seeing how much speed he could carry through the corners. But it almost felt in that final sector it just fell away a little bit. He was still throwing the car into the corners, but there was just a little bit of sliding from the car, and that seems to be where he's losing that little bit of time at the moment to Lewis. So interesting that they're very strong lap from Legend, no doubt about it, but Lewis currently still triple P1 with Avesta, Tyler, what other big names still we get to put in their final run of the session, so this grid is very much not locked in yet.
Yeah, so McWilliam has retired. He survived one challenge from Rosenberg. I do think Rosenberg is looking to potentially go again, because he went out early, and he must think that now he could try again here and see if it works out for him.
His fuel light is flashing, I believe. So
yeah, hang on.
I'm not sure.
Oh no, he's in.
Coming in.
He's in. That is Rosenberg not on pole for the Australian Grand Prix. We do have some more challenges to come, but I ignore Conor Rochford because I think he is going to go for it after this run. And he might be doing the second out lap for whatever reason. Maybe the first run he had to abort. You see, Wonfrey Anderson's retired. He is not going to take part in this session anymore, so 10th is best for him. I will see if we can see if Julius Gassner is improving. Could be able to go ahead of Jonathan Jurgensmeyer if he holds it together in this last sector. 1:18.2, so improvement, but the last sector didn't really work out that well for him. You see Leroy here, he is a little bit down. I think he's not sure what his plan is, but he is a bit off the pace per se, which is a little bit strange. So I think that would be Leroy done. He'll be 18th at best. Con Albert is going to go for a proper lap now. A recently added member of the FVR race winners list. What can he do in that Mercedes? Obviously still a reserve this season, so he's going to take the plunge and be a main driver, but sometimes that's where you work best, as a reserve with a little bit less pressure. But Albert, into turn 1 now, you just need to manage it. Oh, a little bit of a twitch, and it's invalid. Yep, that twitch has cost him. but we'll keep an eye on McBaddy, who is invalid. Davison, purple sector 2. Whether that's proper or not is a whole other question, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. You see Rochford
just come to the line here. He's going to improve by 3 attempts, jump to 4th there. Now it is up, pressure's now on Davison, as you say. The times are close.
Oh, he's actually down in the after second. Oh, and he's no. That the car just did not want to grip up there, and he's now wants to spin. So, oh, and that's Rochford ahead of Davison. So Davison down to 6th, Engel 7th. We have Davison, his teammate, has reached 8th place. So not bad.
AlphaTauri, another one of those teams doing quite well in that qualifying session. Haas, another one, 2 cars in the top 9. As that is qualifying over there for the season opener here in Melbourne, and a grid that we perhaps weren't entirely expecting there. So some big names. Most of the big names are at the front, but not necessarily in the order we would have expected them to be.
I'm going to just say now we are going to be having a lobby restart here. Sorry, so that has been told by Luke Davies, who is our lobby host tonight in absence of Evan. But we'll run you quickly through the results. They are Lewis McWilliam P1. Followed by Legend Roseberg in P2, just a little under a tenth off, followed by Vesa Kabadi, Luke Davies, Conor Rochford, Tyler Davison, Philip Gattis, Nathan Marriott, Liam Heisman, Wong Fei Anderson, Morris Schumer, Penelope Boy, Tim Denhyer, Borbune, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, John Zauber, Leroy, Kyle, and Tyler Basili. So that is your grid for the Australian Grand Prix. We will have a few minutes here to wait while the new lobby is set up.
An interesting qualifying session there then, so a lot of drivers seeming to leave some time on the table there. Tyler, Legend both in particular, seemed like they had a bit more in the tank. We saw them make mistakes in particular. Of course, we don't know what other drivers may have had left, but it's close. It's very close. Lots of you couldn't pick a winner yet. I don't think there's too many drivers here still in this fight.
Yeah, you can say that for sure. There's still a lot of drivers who could be in the fight here. It will just depend now on who ends up where, that kind of thing. Just ignore this start, because it is not the actual one. We do just bear in mind here while we switch over.
Seems as though we had some issues with people not being able to quite get into the lobby there, which isn't ideal, of course. Yeah, it gives us more time to prepare ourselves for what should be a dramatic race. Could well be a dramatic start there on the opening lap. Australia has that tight turn 1-2 section, which, whilst it is quite a tricky sort of tight part of the racetrack, it is still relatively high speed for a first corner there. So these drivers are going to be charging their way then down into an even slower turns 3 and 4, trying to funnel their way through a really tough part of the racetrack. And all of these drivers know that getting these positions early is going to be very helpful for their race. But of course you can't win the race on lap 1. So these drivers hopefully keep that one in mind as well, and we can see a clean opening lap, and hopefully a clean race in general. But of course that opening lap often is where we see the early drama. And yeah, the battle up front is going to be good here. Who gets the best jump off the line, and who is able to improve their positions if they didn't have a great qualifying Legend, for example. So I believe it's P3 there. If he gets a good start, maybe he can jump up into the lead to try and break away. I doubt anyone really in this field is going to be able to break away, but you have to imagine any of the top drivers will have that as their ambition. So that's what they'll have to be pushing for. The question is how hard they're willing to fight for that. If they think it's a realistic possibility that they can lead every lap in this race, they've got to push for it. But if they think, you know what, I'm better off sat in P3, P2 for the first half of the race before I start to even think about going up the order, that could change drivers' sort of mentality going into this race start. So it is going to be close. Lots of drivers with different ideas, different plans, and that is going to be crucial in this race. It's 29 laps ahead of us, but the first one often proves crucial in these races. So easy to get damage on the opening lap. The top 5-6 drivers on the grid here, all drivers that we think have got a legitimate chance to fight for, at the very minimum, podium, probably even the win as well. So they've got to keep it clean, but they've got to keep themselves in the fight, and that isn't going to happen if you drive slowly. So it's going to be tough for everyone on this start, and hopefully they'll get through it nice and cleanly, and they'll live to fight on for lap 2, 3, and the rest of the 29 here today.
Yeah, it should be a very close race here, I'd imagine. Obviously, last time out, I do believe, well, Luke Davies had the win, but he ended up losing out on that win due to a post-race penalty for contact with Enzo King. I am just going to check in to see to remember who did win that race. It was actually Thomas Main who won last season Australian Grand Prix. He did benefit from the Luke Davies penalty. And see, and also he did avoid losing out in a collision with Lewis McWilliam. Admittedly, that one was no further action, as it was just unfortunate contact, which McWilliam was on the worst end of. But obviously Thomas Main isn't here now, so that does. He isn't here to try go back to back, but still went on Jonathan, Lewis and Kyle to pick their cars, and we're waiting on 2 more after that. So once we get 2 more in and everyone picks the cars, we'll be then ready to go. Obviously Luke will have to set the grid.
It's not a fun job most of the time, having to be the lobby host of these things, but it's an important job. So, of course, thank you a lot to Luke here for this one, handling this, because of course you can have these problems with the F1 game. Often do have some sort of technical difficulties. So yeah, Luke doing a good job here of just keeping it on top of everything so far, alongside having to qualify over the last 15-20 minutes. He's also been having to keep an eye out for any potential problems, and that just shows there that he's a very good driver on and off the track there, and it's good to see we do have Adrian in, so that is seemingly at least that our problems have been solved, and hopefully once the grid has been sorted out we can go racing here for the first time this season.
Yep, new season. Will there be some new fortunes or some of the good old fortunes we've been used to? Obviously, we are just waiting on one more driver in a Mercedes, so if we can get them in sooner rather than later, it would be of a help. I believe that is a Sauber, so Julius Gassner is the only one we are waiting on. So once we get them into the lobby, we should be okay.
This is always a tricky situation for drivers, having these restarts. It does sort of put a few question marks in your head. It gives you time to think, which quite often when you're driving isn't something you really want to have time for, because you question things. You have second thoughts on what you're planning for the race, and quite often when it comes to this sort of stuff, when you're racing close to each other at high speed, you don't have time to have that second thought. So it's a different scenario. These drivers getting lots of time to think about the race start, think about their ideas, their strategies for it. The strategy for the race as well, tyre strategy, is going to be another thing that comes into it. So these drivers are, they're not just sitting back and having a nice snooze before the race. They'll be thinking, what can I do? What can I do here to try and help myself? What can I do to help my team? And is there anything I should sort of be more careful with? Anything I should be wary of? It's these sort of simple things that sometimes you don't get the time to think about. In cases like this, you get plenty of thinking time. As I said, sometimes good, not always necessarily a good thing. But these drivers, that's one thing they can't stop themselves from doing is pondering the possibilities of what could happen here in this race here today. And it being a season opener means that we really don't know what could happen. We don't have anything based on this season so far, real sort of ideas of who's going to be the favourites, who's going to be the drivers struggling a bit more. It's those factors that sometimes you can use in your planning ahead of races. You keep out an eye for certain drivers. You think, oh, I'll follow them, or I'll try and get past that driver quickly. But in a season opener, you may have some ideas, but you don't know what's happened in the off-season. You don't know what drivers have improved, what drivers have done to change and prepare themselves for the new season. So it is often a big question mark going into the first race of the season, and it makes everything a lot more unpredictable for us, and hopefully a lot more entertaining for you, the viewer.
Yeah. See, this has felt like a little bit of a short turnaround in a way in comparison to normal sometimes. But obviously, with the new game coming out at the end of May, it's probably better necessary if we can get one last full season in, because usually you have about 3 seasons per game. Obviously, you'll account for this will account for 11 races and a non-championship round as a special event that has not been revealed just yet. So do keep an eye on the FVR Instagram page for that. I'm sure Evan will be more than happy to update you when everything is confirmed. We are still waiting on Julius Gassner to join. We'll be hoping that he is here sooner rather than later.
Indeed there. So, of course, yeah, the new game coming out not too far away, but earlier than usual. That's another thing that will be interesting. These drivers, which drivers will be focusing purely on this season? What drivers will start to sort of get a bit sort of fed up with this game? What drivers will start to get bored and sort of think, oh, well, I'm not willing to put the hours in anymore that some of these drivers do put into practice for these races. So that's another thing that could happen across the season, is some drivers just fed up with the game. If they haven't had things going their way much this season, they could quite easily lose that motivation, especially with a new game on the horizon. That always does increase the likelihood of drivers feeling a bit sort of lost with the game, because there is that light at the end of the tunnel of the new game, whereas usually if it's the end of one season and the next season is on the same game, you know that even if you can't recover positions in the championship for that season, by improving your driving you can still prepare yourself better for the next season, whereas that isn't necessarily the case this time around. So these drivers, a different outlook on the season. At this point in the season, it should really be the same for everyone. They're all pushing 100% to try and get the best they can. But as we get further into the season, that could be something that affects some drivers more than others, which is that, you know, it's something that it is natural, really, that these drivers know that when there's a new game coming, that is something to look forward to. And sometimes that is a distraction, sometimes that's motivation, just to make sure that you finish this game cycle on a high. So that's going to be another thing to sort of look out for, and perhaps an explanation as the season goes on, why some drivers do particularly well. Some drivers perhaps start the season well but struggle as the season goes on, vice versa. That could be a factor in the level of performance that each driver puts out across this season.
Yep. Julius Gassner still having a little bit of trouble getting into this game, so we're just hoping the next minute or so he can get in, otherwise we may have to start without him. And obviously once you start into a race, it means that you'll be in trouble. It means they can't really get back in. It's not like qualifying where you can drive midway through and hop in.
Would be a shame if we started without him, though. Full grid for the season opening would be a very nice thing to see. And of course, important for Mercedes that they get both their drivers in the race, because whilst you can never guarantee points, you got to be in it to win it. So they will be, I'm sure, hoping that they can get both Mercedes drivers in this race ready to go, as it does seem people are readying up. So do we have news?
Yep, we are going now. It seems. It seems unfortunately for Julius Gassner, the game has prevented him. So yeah, we do apologise for the delay. It was just we tried to give me as fair as possible, but unfortunately the game isn't being as fair as possible. So Dave Wongfi has got a bit of support here, so we do welcome the Wongfi fan club, and hope you stick around, and hopefully for your sakes that Wongfi Anderson does have a good race. But we're getting ready to go in now. See, I believe tyres will be entirely their own choice, because we all agreed the restart was agreed before we even got to the race to begin with. So we'll get ready here. Obviously, we just need to remind everyone for setups.
Of course, yeah, that's a very important factor as well here. Something I've been on the wrong end of before. Setups are extremely crucial here, and anyone forgetting them would be in a hell of a lot of trouble here, and probably would find themselves outside the points, regardless of who it is that doesn't have the setup. A setup makes such a big difference on these F1 games, so yeah, that is a crucial thing that everyone has to remember here going into this race, because it's so easy to forget those simple things because you're so used to the screen popping up, you're on the grid, you select your strategy, you press ready to go, because you aren't usually having to set your setup. So that is another crucial factor here that could make a difference. Although hopefully it doesn't, because that isn't something we like to see. Not especially fair for everyone. But I mean, in fairness, they do all know it. It's just with restarts like this, it adds a bit of confusion. But yeah, hopefully we'll have everyone on their setup, on their strategy.
Oh, we're going. We're going. We are 5 red lights. If the lights out down under, we go racing. And it looks like McWilliam he got the right start. It looks like he's got a good start. And it's Rosenberg's tucked in, but Davies, he's having a look here. He's having to fight against Conor Rochford, and it looks like Rochford's got the jump. But, or maybe not, it'll be probably side by side here into turn 3, and it looks like Davies has survived. And Davison now trying to get past the Red Bull. It's not going to happen though. His teammate is trying it the same here with Houseman actually up to P9. He is doing quite well. You see McWilliam out in front, but is Rosenberg going to go for this early, or is he just going to sit in behind? And we might just get a rerun of the old Season 4, Season 5 type races. Maybe even 6, nice to Season 7 also. You see there, McWilliam is keeping ahead for now. Kubati, solid 3rd place, and he's doing very well considering he was not so well during the week. But you see Houseman trying to get past it. AlphaTauri, but that is just not going to happen.
Almost like a throwback race up at the front here, with Lewis and Legend up at the front. Gabbardi just behind them, as you said, putting the pressure on. Luke Davies sitting in that 4th position, trying to keep up with the lead group. But at the moment, the top 2 looking the strongest out of the group, but then you have a couple of cars behind also, putting the pressure on these early stages. This is the point in the race where you just got to keep calm, keep everything together, don't make any silly mistakes, stay with the pack, and hope that as the tyres wear and the strategies become to start to make a difference, that you can then be there ready to capitalise on any other drivers' issues or mistakes. So yeah, this is a critical part of the Grand Prix. May not always look like it, as we do have a spinner down the back.
Yeah, that's Adrian Tishy. Yeah, he's had a little bit of an off there, unfortunate. I believe it. Niels Hartl and Jonathan Jurgens also may have got caught up in an instance there on lap 1. Unfortunately didn't catch them entirely. We were looking at the midfield battle, but fortunate for the Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo, not the best way you want to start the season. But you see, that's Rochford. It's Rochford, and that looks like he's had a bit of a whack as well. Whether it's going to appear visibly is the other question, but definitely looks like he's had a bit of an off there, because that fast chicane is just, if you get it wrong, you really will know that you've got it wrong. It's not like a slow corner, let's say here, where you might just be struggling, but here, or in here where you might have a small spin, but if you spin get it wrong in that fast left right, you are gone. You'd be very lucky to be in the race. You see McWilliam holding on well. Rosenberg trying to stick there. I think Gobadi is struggling a little bit to keep up with these two. And we're just hoping maybe the DRS kicks in, which it should here. So should be of use. The comments are still flying in. Actually, it's nice to see people voicing their opinions. You see here Luke Davies in a solid 4th place, so is he defending champion, but I think he'd be happy enough to start the season with consistent results and build on as the season goes. Because he maybe a little bit less pressure now that he's proved himself against the Rosenberg. But you know, the more you get of something, the more you'll want more. It's just an infinite cycle that just keeps going until eventually you just have to stop at some point. But you see there is Houseman up to 7th, so very good from Liam Houseman in the Alfa Romeo there. I have to say he's doing very well for himself so far. This would be the kind of race you need just to settle in for the season and go from there. There's a solid foundation to build upon. Oh, a little bit deep into 1-2, but should be fine. See, Philip Engel actually holding on very well. So, Jackson, who would you say has been the winner and winners and losers of this first couple of laps of the season?
Well, I think obviously winners off the start. I have to say, obviously Liam had a great start. Tim down in P9, he's gained 5 positions off the start on the softer compound of tyres. He's been another winner off this start. The lead group stayed pretty much as they were. But yeah, Jonathan down P19, he's not had the start he would have wanted to have there. As we've seen a couple of penalties already in there for Adrian and Connor there, so those are the real sort of drivers that have lost out on this opening few laps of the race. But it's never over around here. Safety cars are often a factor in this one, so those drivers just keep pushing, don't give up, and they've still got a shot to get into some points here today, and maybe even more, because you never know what can happen here. This is a track that often has produced some pretty crazy races in the past, so it's going to be an exciting one ahead of us. But up at the front, Lewis and Legend still 1 and 2, but Avesta keeping them honest there. He is really keeping them on their toes, not letting them get away comfortably at the moment.
We do have a move. Houseman, he's been overtaken by Gaddis, and Gaddis has the place. So it looks like this is heading up the midfield pack train that spans down from about Gaddis to Leroy, who is at the back of this little train. Albert, who is a little bit in his own world. He really just not really disconnected to any train. He's just running his own race, which is probably the most Kyle Albert thing you can get.
One thing he has there is that he's quite safe in his current position. If there's drama ahead of him in that big pack of cars, he's at a distance now where if something goes wrong ahead, he's far enough back that he can sort of get himself around it, not getting involved in it directly, and can gain some positions from it. So, as I say that, off goes the Ferrari into the gravel.
Hang on, we'll have to look at this. Morris Stumer. Oh, he's had a bit of an off there. And that's Albert up to 14th and a few positions to gain. Borbune has managed to get up to 11th. Aggressive enough move to get past one for Anderson, which might not go down well with our chat, but yeah. Oh no!
Around. Oh, he's held it. Wonderful stuff.
Our viewership was praying for its life there, I must say, but Wongfi Anderson's held it, so we will thank him there. Houseman, though, he's picked up the first time penalty of the season. So actually, sorry, no, Raptured and Adrian have, so I do apologise, that was a bit unnecessary. But it's the first one we've really seen. You see there, Borbune. And that's Wongfi Anderson again. Oh, he's had probably one of the worst kind of singular laps. Oh, but he's been
and the safety car.
Yeah.
The safety car is deployed. There's a crash for the Aston Martin at the back of the field. I said safety cars could happen here, and Wongfi has just had his race saved there, going from making the mistake to ending up being in a situation where he can still gain something out of this.
Yeah, very much so. He's could have been down at the back, having spun, and you've got to try get your motor back quickly. But now he's able to join back up to the back, have a few laps to breathe, and fix himself.
Into the pits goes Lewis.
Oh, yep.
And Legend, the leader's coming in.
They're all in, because they all know you get onto the hard tyres now at this point. Just make sure you don't cross lines here, lads, because you wouldn't want to... Oh, and I thought a Legend had been held there, but wait a... Yeah, no, he hasn't.
The game is just playing tricks on us.
Yeah, the game's just played tricks, so luckily for Lewis, he will not be falling down the order this stopped. You see there, they're all mostly status quo. The top 6 are all pitted, everyone's in, so very much strategies have been fixed almost. It obviously is like the Qatar Grand Prix last year, where there was limits placed on how many laps you could do in the tyres, so very much so you ended up having this kind of strategy fixed a little bit, and everyone just ended up pushing flat out. So you mightn't do it so much pushing in this case if you bring the hard tyres or medium tyres to the end. So you just want to watch in that case. As you see, hard tyres for the top 8, and then it's Tim on the mediums, then down to 13 to be hards. Mediums for Kyle, hards for Conrad, and then mediums for the Williams drivers, and hards for Jonathan Jurgensen. And Jonathan is probably has the most to gain in this safety car. He's to be last, but at the very least he's going to be with the pack this time.
Adrian's picked up a penalty there under the safety car for corner cutting. He's catching up to the pack. Yeah, it does very much feel as though everyone asked the same person for strategy advice here today, as everyone on pretty much the same strategy here. Yeah, that is interesting now, because that has taken out one element of the race for these lead groups. They could have planned an undercut or an overcut around the pit stops if they'd happened under green flag racing, but now that's got it out of the way. It now means that this is